Everybody out here wants to be seen, wants to be liked, wants to be heard. But let me tell you something, the most powerful transformations happen when nobody's watching. See, we live in a generation that confuses noise with progress. You post it, you tweet it, you shout it out to the world, look at me, I'm grinding. But if you really were grinding, you wouldn't have time to announce it. Because real growth, real solid, unshakable growth doesn't make a sound. It shows up in your results. That's why I'm telling you today, focus on yourself and stay silent. Silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. When you stay silent, you're not hiding, you're building. And people who build don't brag. They execute. There's a time to speak and a time to sow. And when you're in the season of sowing, it's best to keep your mouth shut and your head down. Stay focused. Because the enemy isn't just outside sometimes, the enemy is distraction disguised as validation. If you need people to clap for every step you take, you're still living for approval. And if you're living for approval, you're not living in purpose. Let me make this plain. Your elevation is not a public event. It's a private covenant between you and God. That's why you need to shut down the noise. Everyone has an opinion on how you should live, what you should do, where you should go. But the more you listen to the world, the harder it is to hear your own soul. You don't need another opinion. You need clarity. And clarity only comes when you quiet the chaos and return to focus. And hear me, focus is spiritual. Focus is holy. Focus is obedience. Because when you focus on yourself, not in pride, not in ego, but in self-mastery, you're honoring what God gave you. You're saying, Lord, I'm serious about this calling. I won't let distractions pull me off course. And that kind of discipline, it separates the talkers from the doers, the dreamers from the builders, the ordinary from the exceptional. People respect results, not announcements. You want to impress people. Show up different. Show up transformed. Let your life scream what your lips no longer need to say. When you enter the room, your character should announce you. Your excellence should introduce you. Your fruit should testify on your behalf. When you're quiet, you give him space to move. He doesn't need your height. He needs your humility. He doesn't need your performance. He needs your patience. Some of why are trying to force seasons that aren't ready yet. But if you just stay silent, stay grounded, and keep building, everything you're praying for will chase you down at the appointed time. So I say again, focus on yourself and stay silent. Get off social media. Stop explaining your process. Let people underestimate you. Let them think you fell off. Let them question your silence. Because when the time comes, when God says now, all that work in the dark will shine so bright, they'll have no choice but to wonder how you did it, and you won't even have to say a word. Silence is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's the invisible armor of those who are serious about their growth, their goals, and their destiny. In a world that rewards noise, where everyone's shouting for attention, silence becomes your power move. When you learn to move in silence, you don't just avoid unnecessary distractions, you step into a level of discipline that separates you from 95% of people. That's because silence is intentional. It's not passive. It's not hiding, it's strategy. You see, people waste energy explaining themselves, defending their choices, and announcing every move before it's made. They give play-by-plays on dreams they haven't even executed yet. But the problem with broadcasting your vision is that it invites interference. The more you share prematurely, the more opinions you attract. And opinions, especially from people who haven't built anything themselves, can plant seeds of doubt. That doubt slows you down, drains your confidence, and causes you to second-guess moves you should have made with full conviction. Silence eliminates that noise. It becomes a shield, a boundary, and a filter all in one. When you're silent, your energy isn't being pulled in 1,000 directions. You're not explaining, you're not reacting, you're simply doing. You're focused. You're present. You're locked in. And when you're that dialed in, your productivity multiplies. You get more done in a week than most people get done in a month, because you're not wasting time trying to be understood. You're busy becoming undeniable. Moving in silence also builds your mental strength. It teaches you how to delay gratification. It forces you to trust yourself when there's no applause. That's rare in a world driven by likes, comments, and validation. Most people only feel alive when they're being acknowledged, but the strongest people, they don't need the spotlight, they become the spotlight through execution. Their work speaks for them. Their consistency speaks for them. Their transformation is the only explanation they need. Silence also makes you unpredictable. And that's powerful. When people can't figure out your next move, they can't block it, slow it down, or compete with it. Your silence becomes your leverage. It keeps people guessing. It protects your strategy. It gives you time to build, adjust, and refine without pressure, without noise, without interference. You're not rushing to keep up appearances. You're moving at the speed of purpose. Let's talk about influence. People often mistake charisma for influence. They think if you're loud, bold, and always visible, you must be powerful. But the most powerful individuals are the ones who speak less and do more. They walk into a room and shift the energy not because they announce themselves, but because they carry presence. And that presence was built in silence. In the dark hours. In the unseen work. In the grind no one saw, but everyone respects. There's another layer to this: emotional control. Silence teaches you how to master your emotions instead of reacting to every insult, every slight, every challenge you observe. You analyze, you respond only when it serves your vision. That kind of control is a superpower. It keeps you from getting pulled into low-level drama. It helps you maintain your peace. And peace is a form of power most people never get to taste because they're too busy chasing chaos. When you move in silence, you stop seeking credit. You stop needing recognition. You understand that results don't need an announcement. They need consistency, effort, and time. And when you give those three things to your goals, your success becomes inevitable. People will notice. They always do. They'll even look up one day and ask, when did you change? How did you grow so fast? And you won't have to say a word because your life will speak volumes. Staying silent also gives you space to evolve without pressure. Growth requires privacy. Sometimes you outgrow environments, relationships, habits, and even versions of yourself. But if you're constantly explaining those shifts, you're delaying them. Silence allows you to transition in peace, to rebuild without commentary, to rise without interference. So understand this: silence isn't about staying small. It's about preparing to move big. It's about building something so solid that when it finally shows up in the world, there's no doubt about its power. You've got to earn that power in private. You've got to master the art of patience, resilience, and delayed applause. That's why silence is wisdom. Because only the wise know that real power isn't shown, it's built. Quietly, consistently, and relentlessly. Your growth isn't for public approval. It's not meant to be validated by likes shared by friends or praised by strangers. Growth is personal. Growth is private. Growth is sacred. And yet too many people feel the pressure to broadcast every single step of their journey. They document every small win, every early morning, every late night, hoping someone will see it and say, you're doing great. But real elevation doesn't require an audience. It only requires commitment to your mission. Think about it. Some of the most powerful breakthroughs in your life happened when nobody was watching. Nobody clapped for you when you cried yourself to sleep and woke up with more determination. Nobody posted a comment when you said no to distractions, walked away from toxic people, or chose discipline over comfort. And yet, those are the moments that shaped you. Those are the decisions that built your foundation. This is where most people get stuck. They confuse being seen with being successful. They want to be celebrated before they've completed the work. They want the applause before the results. But here's the truth. The most meaningful growth happens in silence, away from the crowd, in rooms where only you know what's being developed. Because when you stop growing for others and start growing for yourself, everything changes. You stop chasing attention and start chasing alignment. Your journey is yours. It wasn't designed to be understood by everyone, and it certainly wasn't designed to be consumed like content. The moment you start living for approval, you give away your power. You shift your focus from your purpose to your image. And when image becomes more important than impact, you lose your way. Suddenly, you're no longer building from within, you're performing for praise. You're addicted to the response, not the result. Let's be real. The grind isn't glamorous. It's gritty. It's lonely, filled with doubt, late nights, quiet sacrifices, and uncomfortable growth. But those moments are the foundation of real success. That's where character is built. That's where discipline is forged. And that's where you become the kind of person who doesn't just achieve success, but sustains it. Because elevation isn't just about rising up, it's about becoming ready to rise. Public approval is a drug, and social media is the dealer. It teaches you that if you're not posting it, it doesn't count. But you don't need to announce every move you make. Some of your best progress will never be seen. Some of your greatest wins will be the ones that happen in your heart and mind long before the world catches up. In fact, the more silent your growth, the more solid it becomes, because you're not distracted by what people think. You're not adjusting your direction based on feedback. You're not waiting for permission. You're just doing the work, quietly, consistently, powerfully. When you grow in private, you develop strength that doesn't rely on applause. You learn how to affirm yourself. You learn how to stay focused when no one's watching. And that focus, that internal fire, it's what separates the average from the elite, the pretenders from the producers, the dreamers from the doers. You also give yourself space to fail, to evolve, and to shift direction without scrutiny. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to experiment. You're allowed to fall and get back up without explaining yourself to anyone. That's the gift of privacy. That's the strength of walking your journey for you, not for an audience. And when you finally do rise, when your results become visible, when your progress is undeniable, you won't need to say a word. People will see it. They'll feel it. And they'll know it didn't come from performance. It came from patience, from persistence, from the quiet hours no one saw. So stop waiting for someone to approve your grind. Stop hoping the world will validate your path. Stop thinking you need to prove your worth through posts, updates, and announcements. You don't. You never did. Your growth is not for them. It's for you. It's for the next level of your life. It's for the future you're building. Stay committed to that. Stay loyal to your mission. Stay focused on what matters. And let the results make the noise. People respect results, not announcements. In a world flooded with noise, declaration, self-promotion, it's easy to get caught up in the illusion that talking about the dream is the same as achieving it. It's not. Real power doesn't come from what you say, it comes from what you produce. And the people who truly move the world forward aren't the loudest in the room. They're the ones too busy building to waste time explaining. Everyone wants to be known for something, but very few are willing to become the person capable of doing that something. That's why talk is cheap. You can talk about your goals, your grind, your hustle, your big plans, but if there's no follow through, it's all just noise. Nobody's impressed by potential anymore. They're watching for proof. Your ideas might inspire a moment, but your results earn long-term respect. Because here's the truth. The world listens differently when you've got something to show. When your actions align with your words, when your life demonstrates consistency, discipline, and execution, people take notice. You don't have to beg for support. You don't have to demand respect. Your outcomes command it. Talking feels good. It gives the illusion of progress. It makes you feel like you're doing something even when nothing has changed. But greatness isn't about making noise, it's about making impact. It's about putting your head down, shutting your mouth, and doing the kind of work that doesn't require an announcement. Because if what you're building is truly powerful, people will see it. They'll feel it. And they'll ask, what changed? You don't have to explain yourself when your transformation is visible. You don't need to post every step when your life becomes the evidence. You don't need a crowd to believe in you when your results speak so loudly that silence becomes your brand. And think about the people you respect the most. Chances are it's not because they talk all day. It's because they deliver consistently, reliably, and without excuses. There's a kind of gravity that results create. They pull people in. They inspire without effort. They shift conversations and set new standards, but you can't cheat your way into those results. You have to earn them by being the person who doesn't need a round of applause to do the right thing who doesn't wait for motivation to show up, and who doesn't broadcast their intentions, but lets their life reveal the outcome. And don't get it twisted, building in silence isn't about playing small. It's about playing smart. It's about knowing that when the work is real, the world will see it in time. You don't need to sell anyone on your value. You need to live it. Let your habits show it. Let your growth reflect it. Let your consistency prove it. Talk less. Build more. The people who matter aren't checking your feed, they're watching your evolution. They're observing the shift in your mindset, your discipline, your presence. And those shifts don't need an explanation. They just need execution. So the next time you feel the urge to announce pause, redirect that energy into action, into mastery, into patience. And when the time is right, when the results are undeniable, you won't have to say a word. Because the world doesn't ask who clapped for you. It asks what changed. Be the change. Let your outcome speak. Focus is a spiritual discipline. It's not just about productivity, time management, or getting more done. It's about alignment. It's about deciding who you are, what matters, and what no longer deserves your energy. In a world addicted to distraction, the ability to focus is rare. And anything that's rare becomes powerful. Focus separates the overwhelmed from the intentional, the lost from the grounded, the average from the extraordinary. When you narrow your vision, you begin to expand your life. Most people think the more options they have, the more successful they'll be. But the truth is, freedom doesn't come from endless choices, it comes from clarity. It comes from commitment. Focus forces you to let go of what no longer serves you, to release what isn't aligned, and to ignore what was never your assignment in the first place. The moment you decide to focus on yourself, the game changes, not because the world around you suddenly shifts, but because you shift. Your energy becomes cleaner, your mind becomes sharper, your days become more intentional. You're no longer scattered, pulled in every direction, trying to please everyone and prove yourself at every turn. You're locked in. You're clear. You know exactly where you're going, and more importantly, you know we're important. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish. It's self-respect. It's the ultimate declaration that your peace, your purpose matter, that your time is valuable, that your mind is sacred space, that your body, your goals, your healing, your boundaries, they're not up for debate. They deserve your full attention, not your leftovers. But let's be honest, focusing on yourself is hard. Not because it's complicated, but because it requires you to say no. No to distractions. No to validation. No to anything that doesn't build you. That kind of discipline is uncomfortable at first. It means you'll outgrow people, habits, conversations, and environments that once felt familiar. It means you'll walk away from noise that once fed your ego. It means becoming okay with being misunderstood, unseen, and even judged while you're building something deeper than what the surface can hold. But here's the reward: the deeper you go, the higher you rise. The more focused you become, the more powerful your presence becomes. And people will feel that. They'll notice the difference, even if they can't explain it. You won't have to chase anything. You won't have to force opportunities. Focus turns you into a magnet. It creates momentum. And momentum creates results. When you give yourself the gift of focus, you begin to live on purpose. You stop waking up reacting to life and start creating it. You stop entertaining chaos and start cultivating peace. You stop comparing your timeline to others and start honoring your own path. And that's when your life starts to elevate, not because the world made room for you, but because you finally made room for yourself. So choose to focus. Not just once, but daily. Wake up and decide what matters. Protect your mental space. Guard your time. Move with intention. And most of all, stay committed, even when it's not exciting, even when it's not glamorous, even when no one else understands why you're disappearing from the crowd. Because the ones who win truly win aren't the ones who chase everything. They're the ones who chose one thing, focused, and gave it everything they had. Focus is power. Focus is freedom. Focus is your weapon in a world that wants to keep you distracted, confused, and small. Don't fall for it. Narrow your vision, respect your path, elevate your life. God works best in quiet places, not in the noise, not in the performance, but in the stillness where your soul can finally breathe, where your mind stops racing, and where the real work begins. It's in the background, when no one is watching, that the deepest transformation happens. While the world is looking for validation, applause, and recognition, something sacred is unfolding in the silence. It's not punishment, it's preparation. You're not being ignored, you're being refined. Too often, people mistake silence for stagnation. They think if nothing's being posted, nothing's happening. If no one's talking about you, you must be falling behind. But what they don't understand is that the greatest work is invisible. Progress isn't always loud. Growth doesn't always make headlines. And elevation doesn't require a crowd. In fact, some of the most powerful seasons in your life will look quiet on the surface, but underneath, everything is shifting. When you stay silent and focus, you make space for something greater to move. You're not trying to control the outcome. You're not trying to force the timeline. You're not distracted by opinions, noise, or outside pressure. You're simply doing the work, showing up, being consistent, even when it's hard, even when no one claps. And that kind of focus creates a spiritual opening and allows divine timing to take over. Because timing matters. What's meant for you is never late, but it does require your patience. If you rush the process, you risk settling for less than what you're capable of. If you broadcast too early, you invite resistance that you're not yet equipped to handle. But when you trust the quiet seasons, when you honor the unseen grind, you give yourself time to become the person your future demands. Refinement isn't comfortable. It's not glamorous, it's slow, intentional, and often lonely. But it's necessary. It strips away what you don't need. It exposes what you've been avoiding. It sharpens your focus, strengthens your resolve, and deepens your capacity. You can't fast forward through it. You can't skip the silence. You have to go through it because that's where the foundation is laid. That's where purpose takes root. That's where you stop performing and start transforming. And here's the truth most people miss. The silence is where you're actually seen the most, not by the world, but by the one who's writing your story. While others may overlook you, count you out, or forget your name, the plan for your life continues to unfold. The doors are being aligned. The resources are being prepared. The people you need are being positioned. All while you're staying focused, showing up, and refusing to give up. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains, the kind that keeps working even when nothing seems to be changing. The kind that understands the assignment isn't always to be visible, it's to be ready. So when your moment comes, you don't fumble it. You've already done the work. You've already become the version of yourself who can handle it. And people will look at your breakthrough and call it overnight, but you'll know better. You'll know it was built in silence. When you choose to stay quiet, focused, you're not hiding, you're protecting, you're guarding your energy. You're preserving your peace. You're not allowing outside noise to dilute your vision. That takes strength. That takes maturity. And that takes a deep understanding that what's coming is greater than what's been. So if you're in a season where it feels like no one sees you, keep going. If your name isn't being mentioned, if your efforts aren't being recognized, if the grind is heavy and the room's silent, stay the course. Keep your head down, keep your spirit high, and keep trusting the process. The silence isn't a pause in your story. It's the chapter where the real transformation happens. The refining, the stretching, the alignment, the internal shift that prepares you for everything that's coming. Because when the time is right, you won't have to force a thing. What's meant for you will find you not because you shouted, but because you became. Let the world wonder, let the noise fade. Stay silent, stay focused. And let divine timing do what it does best, deliver when you're ready, not when you're loud.